Hello everyone, my name is Protesilaos, also known as Prot. In this video I want to talk to you about use package, and I want to show you the main patterns of configuration that we can establish while using use package. Use package is built into Emacs as of version 29, so you don't need to do anything to have it loaded on your system. You just have a use package declaration, such as what you see here in my buffer, and Emacs will take care of the rest. Whereas in previous versions of Emacs, before 29, you need to install use package and take care to load it yourself. So let's see what we have and why we want to learn about use package. I have lots of examples here and I will go through them, but a general idea before we get started. Use package is not a package manager. This is really important. What use package is a configuration macro. Essentially, use package allows you to write shorter configurations for your packages and to eliminate repetition as well as a lot of boilerplate code. And we will see some examples of this in action. So let's get started right away. I have the examples here, and what I want to do is just narrow to this first section and then go through the sections. Here I have two very simple examples of use package, which do two things. One, they enable the package. For example, here the package is denote. And this declaration over here, so this package declaration over here, will load the denote package. The keyword we'll see right here, ensure T, tells use package to ensure that the package is installed if it is not already on the machine that I am now using. If it is already installed, then use package will not do anything. It will just enable it, but will not try to reinstall it. So this is really for the first time we start up Emacs to have all our packages in order. Note here that this will use the default Emacs package manager, which is package.el. If you are using another package manager, such as Straight, Quelpa, Alpaca, they have documentation about what kind of keywords you need to have for use package to use those instead of package.el. I believe in the case of Alpaca, it can use actually ensure T and in the background translate it to the Alpaca call. But again, you have to consult the documentation of those packages. Here we are using just what is built into Emacs. When we have ensure T, we are telling use package to explicitly try to install the package that we are configuring here. And by the same token, when we say ensure nil, as in the example over here with the dred package, we are telling use package, do not try to install this. And usually the reason we say that is because this package is already built into Emacs. So don't even bother checking on a package archive for dred. There is a user option which is called, let me see here, use package always ensure, I think. Use package always ensure. And if you set this to a non-nil value, if you set this to T, it means that you don't need to have the ensure T in every package declaration like this. But you will still need to have ensure nil when you want to say, no, I want to opt out of this default. Me personally, I just keep the default values, so I do not set this variable over here. So this is the absolute basic way to install packages and set them up with use package. Let's go to the next section and see what we have over here. We now see the introduction of a new keyword, which is the config keyword right here. The config keyword tells use package to evaluate the code we have here after the package has been loaded. So let me write an example here. If we weren't using use package, we would have something like this. We would have the F themes. They are called F, by the way, not EF. And then we would have this over here. And we would have something like this, okay? Now, in this example, it is pretty straightforward, but we will see why you want a config and how it combines with other use package features. But just to note that config means that the code you are evaluating will be evaluated after the use package declaration loads the package. So basically, after the require call. So let's dismiss those. We don't need this. And let's see now another example with the init keyword over here. Sometimes when you are loading a package, you want to make sure that a state in Emacs is already there before that package is loaded. And there are some cases where you need to do this. It's not too common, but there are some cases, depending on the documentation of the package, you will find what those cases are. But one example here, which may not be strictly necessary actually, is with the Corfu package. Corfu provides this pop-up. So when you hit tab, for example, it will show you something like this. And the idea is that you want, before Corfu is even up and running, you want to tell Emacs what to do when the tab key is hit. And here we say basically try to complete if indentation is not the right option. So this is what we say here. So semantically, it makes sense to first set up the behavior of the tab key that we want, and then tell it, okay, now load Corfu. So init will be called first, and config will be called afterwards. Actually, the order of these keywords is not significant, right? So you could, in theory, have the config here, and then you would have the code, and then the init. But I think it looks more nice to just have, oh, what did I do? To just have the init first and the config afterwards. Me personally, in my package declarations, I always use the same sequence just to make it easier for me to check what is happening in case I have a long package configuration. So far, we are seeing the simple use cases of use package. So you will have something that you evaluate before the package is loaded, something that will be evaluated after the package is loaded, and just make sure that the package is installed or not. Now let's see some more involved use cases. Here I am configuring the spacious padding package. And what I want is to load this package declaration, which would have the config right here, right, with all the configurations. Load all this, evaluate all this, only if I am running Emacs in a graphical environment, such as what I have right here. If I am running Emacs in a terminal, I don't want to enable the spacious padding package and the spacious padding mode, because that mode only works when you have a graphical Emacs. If you are in a terminal, it won't make the mode line bigger, it won't add spacing, padding between the windows, and so on. So many things will not work as expected in the terminal. Now, we have another example here with an if here, an if keyword, where we are evaluating this form over here. And what this form does is it checks the value of the variable system type. And we can do Control HV and search for system type, or we can do MX describe variable and we search for system type. And in my case, the value is GNU/Linux. Of course, there are lots of options here. Depending on your operating system, you want to set that. And here I am saying, okay, you know what? I want you to install this package, the sxhkdrc mode, install it, but only load it if I am on Linux. So this is what this means over here. And then, of course, you can have the config and whatever you want to have, okay? Here we have a slightly different way of doing this, where we don't want to evaluate anything in the package unless we are on Linux. And for this reason, we have to evaluate this condition before use package. So use package is inside of the when. And in this scenario, we don't need the if keyword. Depending on what you are doing, this is what you want over here. I think in this example, this is the better way to do it, because if I am on another computer where SXHKD, this program doesn't exist, there is no point in me even installing this package on my machine. So I would use this in such a case. But just to say that the normal use case of if is for something like this, where I want the package to be installed on my system. It is totally okay, but I only want to make it work under certain conditions. And then you will write the arbitrary code, which will return a non-nil value. And if it returns a non-nil value, then the package will be loaded. Of course, if it returns a nil value, the package will not be loaded. So far we have seen how to configure use package packages, but we do it in a way that slows up the Emacs startup time, because those are evaluated while your init file is being read. So as soon as you load Emacs, it goes through all the packages and it loads them. But this can slow down Emacs a lot, especially if you have a lot of packages. So we don't want that. We want to tell Emacs via use package to load stuff when they are needed. And this way we can shorten the init time and make Emacs faster to start up. So I have some examples here. There are several keywords that will automatically defer the loading of a package. One such keyword is the bind keyword over here. And we see how we combine the different keywords. The bind keyword is for you to define a key binding. And when you see it like this without a key map specified, it means that you are defining this key in the quotes. You are defining this key to call this command over here. So what this means in this package declaration that you see over here, it means I want you to load the denote package. I want you to make sure that the package is installed. This will be done at startup. But then I want you to configure this package only after I hit this key binding over here. So before I do that, do not evaluate anything inside of the config. And this is what you normally want, by the way. You don't want the init keyword, because the init keyword is evaluated before the package is loaded. So whatever you have in the init will be evaluated regardless of whether you are deferring on or not. So make sure not to use init, or to use it only when it absolutely makes sense. Otherwise, you want the config keyword. Here I have the same as above, but I am using explicitly the map keyword of binding keys to say that this is the global map. And we will see a bit later why I am doing this, why I am being explicit, because you can define keys for many key maps, and then it makes sense to say, okay, this is the global map, this is the other map, this is the third map, and so on. So we will see this a bit later. Here, actually, no, I don't have it here. It's further down. But here we see what we need to do if we have more key bindings. You will see earlier, let me just hide this for now. We will see here, like right here, that there is only a single pair of parentheses. Because when you are defining only one key, use package knows to take care of this on its own. But if you are defining many keys, so if you are doing this, each pair of string and command has to be encapsulated in an outer list. So this is a list of lists, a list of pairs, an association list, or as we say. So you have to do it like this, okay? Just so you know. But it is the same idea. Even if you have only one bind keyword here, one bind entry, it will defer the package. So it won't defer it more times, right? That doesn't make sense. So here we are. Let's continue. Here we have another keyword which will also defer the package. And this keyword will install a hook. So what this means in this case here is I want you to ensure that the package is installed, and you do this at startup. This only happens once. But once the package is installed, I only want you to evaluate this mode, load this mode, when I am in DRED, when I open a DRED buffer. When I open a DRED buffer, the DRED mode hook will be called, and it will evaluate all the functions that are assigned to it. And so if I have a config keyword here, this will only be run after I am in DRED, after I am in DRED. Okay? This is the idea. Actually, let's have it this evaluated after I am in DRED. Only after I am in DRED. So like this. Again, this is why you want to use config and not init. There are cases with init, but they are the exceptions. To say here, just to note here, that the hook is not called DRED mode. The hook is called DRED mode hook. And there is a user option, use package, something with hook, hook name suffix. And you will see here that by default, use package is configured to omit the hook suffix. I keep it at the default. Personally, I am ambivalent about this. And the reason I am ambivalent is because I cannot just do Control HV with the cursor over DRED mode and for it to understand that I want to search for the DRED mode hook. So I would prefer to have this explicitly stated, but because it is the default in use package, I keep it like this so that people who copy from my configuration, they will get something that works out of the box without having to configure use package. But just for you to know, you can set this up to explicitly have the hook over here. But I keep it like this. And again, this will defer the package. Here we have another case of deferring the package until one of these commands specified in the commands keyword is called either with Emacs or with its default key binding. I must stress here that you normally do not need this because any well-maintained package will take care to auto-load its main points of entry. For example, I can go to my denote package here, and I can search for auto load. And let's see, do we have? So for example, we'll see the denote type command over here. And you will see that it has this auto load keyword. What this means is that if the user hasn't done anything, hasn't loaded the denote package, and they do MX and search for denote, the denote type symbol will appear in the MX menu. And if the user calls this command, what Emacs will do is it will first come to the denote.el file, evaluate the whole file, and then run denote type. So let's go back to our configuration here. So normally you don't need to enumerate all the commands that should be behaving in this auto load way. But this commands keyword can do that for scenario where the auto load cookie doesn't exist. For me personally, the commands like this is a way to remind myself or the person reading this that, hey, these are the main commands that I am using or that you need to know about. But as I said, if the package is well maintained, this is superfluous. So let's go to the next package. Another way to defer the loading of a package is to make it a run when you visit a certain file. And you will provide a regular expression over here for file names and what to match in a file name. This only really makes sense for major modes where you want to open a file that ends in, let's say, .org, and in that scenario you want to run org mode. So it doesn't make sense to evaluate org roam earlier. You only evaluate it after the first time you are in a .org file. Again, this is something that you normally do not want, because any reasonably well maintained major mode will arrange to have this kind of thing on its own, where it will register itself for the relevant files that it supports. There are, though, some cases where you really need to be explicit and say, you know what, in these files, I want this mode. For example, in a file called readme, I want markdown mode. Okay, and you will do something like that. But just to say that, again, this will defer the loading of the package. So let's see here other examples of how you can defer a package. Here I am using the built-in Emacs server, which allows me to use the first running instance of Emacs as a server to which the Emacs client instances can attach to. And what I am doing here is that I am starting the server, as you can see over here, with 1 second of idleness. This is the idea. So start up Emacs, and if I am not doing anything for 1 second, then load the server package, evaluate all this. You can set this to a very high number, of course, like 30 seconds, but then chances are that you will always be doing something with Emacs, and then the package will never be loaded. So for me, defer, if you are using it with a number, only really makes sense if the number is small. Otherwise, the chances of you not activating the package are non-trivial. Another case, which depends on what you are doing, is the defer keyword. The deferred keyword, if you set it to a T like this, will defer the package indefinitely. And indefinitely in this case means it will defer it until something else triggers the loading of the package. In this case, it's the markdown mode. So it is triggered when I visit a markdown file, a .md file. But there are other cases where this can happen. For example, when I am using a built-in package, such as the bookmark package, which I showed earlier. Actually, I can go there. Where was it? It was here. I could actually remove the commands and have defer T. And this would be enough, because what I would be telling use package is defer this package because it will be loaded when I invoke one of the bookmark related commands. And those are already auto-loaded, but even if they are not, once I call these commands, then that package will be loaded. So this is the idea, okay? Again, you need to check when the defer keyword makes sense. If you have bind, hook, mode, and some others, you don't need to explicitly state defer. Of course, it does no harm, but you normally don't need it. So let's continue and see here a scenario where we don't want to defer the loading of the package. Here I am configuring the Modus themes, and I am using the bind keyword, as you can see over here, right? And the bind keyword, as we discussed earlier, will defer the loading of the package. But because I still want to use the theme without, hitting a key, it doesn't make sense for me to defer the package in this way until I hit a key. It mostly makes sense to either defer by 1 second, which we saw earlier, or to tell Emacs, you know what, I want you to actually load this eagerly. So I don't want to defer this. I demand that this package is loaded outright as soon as we start Emacs. Of course, the demand keyword is something that you normally don't want to use because it will slow down your Emacs configuration, but there are a few things such as a theme which makes sense to be loaded at the outset. Another option would be to load them with a hook after the init phase of Emacs, but I don't need to go into such technicalities, and it wouldn't save you that much anywhere. Do it for all the packages, and for cases like this, just use demand. I have this bee over here or whatever that keeps annoying me. So let's see, it's a fly, I think. What is happening? So let's see. More. Here I am defining many keys in many key maps. And I told you earlier about the use of the map keyword inside of the bind keyword. Normally, as we said, we don't need to say map global map because it is implicit. If you have something like this, let's see the bind keyword, the first set here means that we are using the global map. But me personally, I prefer to be explicit like this. It is absolutely clear what is happening now. It is whatever is under the global map is bound to the global map. Whatever is under the text mode map goes to that map, and so on. And for me, this is really nice and it makes things clear. And of course, as I said, the bind keyword will defer the loading of this package. Uh, Here we have a case of the hook keyword, and I show you how to be more succinct with your configuration. What I have over here is the hook, as we saw it earlier, but the first element of this pair is a list of hooks. And what this means is that you want to do this. So the above is the same as what we have below. Below is a bit more repetitive, but it also has an advantage which makes it easier to reason about. It's not as magical, it's not as um, ambiguous of what is happening there. Why do I have a list there? Could I have a list elsewhere, maybe in the key maps or whatever? So I think in terms of configuration, this is totally okay. And I would be inclined to use this, but I think there are cases in my configuration where I also use this method over here. So I am ambivalent about this, but it's good for you to know. Here we have a case of customizing a package that is not available in one of the package archives that we install using Ensure. In this case, by the way, just to say, because I don't have the always ensure configuration set up, this is the same as saying ensure nil, but I can make it more explicit. And I can say do not install because I get it from my Linux packages. Okay, like this. This is the idea. Linux distro packages like this. And what we are saying here is because we have not installed the package using the built-in package manager or one of the other Emacs package managers, we need to tell Emacs where are the files of this package. So where are the .el files which Emacs will know about and will evaluate. And this is called the load path. So we are providing a file system path here, and we are telling Emacs that inside of this path, you will find the relevant files that can be evaluated. And here we can still say defer T, and I have the commands. As I said, commands and defer T don't need to be at the same declaration because commands means to defer. But it does no harm to have both. And for me, commands is basically a reminder that these are the things you really need to know about. These are the points of entry, if you will. But this is totally fine to have both. So here we have a case, 1 second, of loading one package after another. You see, use package not much, and then use package the not much indicator. The not much indicator, by the way, is this thing over here, which shows you a configurable set of queries, how many emails they have. And here what we see is that the not much indicator will be loaded after not much. But because not much is deferred, this will also be deferred. So we don't need to say here defer this package as well, because this package will only be loaded after not much is available, never before. So in practice, the not much indicator will be evaluated after we call one of those commands over here. Okay, let's go further and see here a scenario where we do not want to involve some kind of arbitrary dependency, to create a dependency where there is none. The register key, package, for example, does not depend, strictly speaking, on the save hist package. So there is no sense in saying first load save hist, then load register, because we don't want to get in a scenario where, for whatever reason, we have dependencies between unrelated packages. So in those cases, we want to use this. This is ordinary Emacs Lisp. This is not the use package thing. So whenever we are evaluating some ordinary eLisp, we do it inside of the config keyword. So defer the loading of the package until whenever it is called. And when it is called, when it is loaded, then evaluate the config section. And this means that the config section in this case says, okay, we are now loading the register package. And we have done that. And now we are creating kind of a hook, let's call it, which is kind of a wait and see of once save hist is loaded, then evaluate whatever code we have inside of this. Okay, this is the idea. And so we are saying just add to this variable, just add this value. This is the idea. Let's see now a scenario that can lead into an impossibility. The bind keymap, as we said, will defer the loading of a package. So in this scenario, what I have is I am binding a key that runs this command. I am binding it to the vertical map. So this creates a deferred loading of the vertical package, okay? But because the vertical map is activated only when you are inside the mini buffer and are using vertical, we have a problem here because the vertical mode is defined here to be evaluated after the package has been loaded. So we are creating a deferral. The package is not loaded. And we are saying load the package when this command is called inside of this map. But this map can only exist after vertical mode is evaluated. So we create an impossible situation for us. Vertical will not work in this scenario unless we do MX vertical mode, okay? So we want to avoid cases like this and be a bit careful. And one way to do this is to use a hook for the after init hook of Emacs to evaluate vertical mode and then bind the keyword there. You could also do init vertical mode, but there are ways to do that, or you could say demand T, and load that eagerly. So there are ways to work around this, but just remember not to put yourself in a situation like this where the package never loads. So let's continue. I think this is what I did here. Okay, so this was the last thing. And basically, this is it, folks. I covered some of the most common use cases of use package. I will provide the contents of my Scratch buffer in the publication that will embed this video on my website, so you can check this out yourself. Just to say, there are other things that use package can do, but it is better to consult the manual for those cases. I think they are less common and you don't really need to remember them. These are the most common ones. These are the essentials. But if you need to check the use package manual, you can do Control H, capital R, and then search for use package. And there you are, use package user manual. And then you go through the manual and you can check this out at your own pace. So this is it for today, folks. Thank you very much for your attention. The link to the publication that will contain this will be available in the description in case you are watching this on the video hosting platform. Thank you very much for your attention. Take care and goodbye for now, folks.